When I was 13, I had a best friend named Charlie. He lived in a trailer park that sat just behind our cul-de-sac, a row of rust-colored tin roofs tucked behind a chain-link fence. From my bedroom window, I could see the top of his trailer, the way the aluminum shimmered whenever the sun hit it just right. My family wasn't rich, but compared to Charlie's, we might as well have been. I never said that out loud, but I think he knew. His shoes were always a size too big, hand-me-downs from an older cousin, and his shirt sleeves hung past his wrist. None of it ever seemed to bother him, though. Charlie was loud, fearless, and constantly looking for the next thing that might get us grounded. At the far end of the street was Mr. Wilson's house. Everyone called him the old man. His yard was overgrown, full of weeds and broken tools, and he never waved when people passed by. Our parents warned us to stay away from him, and there were stories, ugly ones, that he used to have something to do with the kids who'd gone missing years ago. Nobody ever proved anything, but in a small town, a rumor can live longer than the truth. Charlie and I were obsessed with testing limits. We'd dare each other to ride bikes down steep hills with our eyes closed or ring Wilson's doorbell and run. It was never about being mean. It was about who would flinch first. Charlie never did. One evening that summer, Charlie grinned at me and said, "Bet you won't sneak into old man's place tonight." I laughed it off, but when I didn't answer fast enough, he added, "Unless you're scared." That was all it took. I told him I'd do it, but only if he came with me. We waited until we saw Mr. Wilson's truck rumble down the road just after sunset. His porch light went out and the house felt dark. The air felt heavier than it should have. When we crept around back, we found an open window near the kitchen, old, painted shut, but cracked just enough to pry loose. Inside, everything was draped in white sheets, furniture, picture frames, even the TV. It didn't look abandoned exactly, more like someone had pressed pause on life. All the clocks on the walls were stopped at the same time, 3 a.m. Charlie pointed it out, whispering, "What kind of person does that?" We laughed quietly, nervously, and started to explore. The floorboards groaned under our sneakers. There was a locked basement door, thick and heavy, with shiny new padlock that didn't match the rest of the house. Then, from somewhere deeper inside, a faint melody started playing. It sounded like a music box, off key and slow, the kind you might find in a child's room. Charlie froze. "Do you hear that?" Before I could answer, a voice called out, raspy and close, drifting from upstairs.
George, is that you?
We looked at each other. George. That was Mr. Wilson's first name, but everyone said he lived alone. Something creaked overhead. Footsteps, slow and uneven, crossing the ceiling right above us. Charlie whispered, "Go, go, go." We bolted for the window. He scrambled through first, and I followed, pushing the frame back behind us as quietly as I could. My hand shook so bad I nearly dropped it. By the time we sprinted across the yard, my heart was pounding so hard it hurt. That night, I woke up to flashing red and blue lights bouncing off my bedroom walls. My dad came in, looking half awake and irritated. He said somebody had broken into Mr. Wilson's house while he was out. The police were over there right now. Charlie and I traded glances across the room. My throat went dry. I asked, trying to sound casual, "Was was his wife okay?" Dad frowned. "His what?" "His wife," I said. "I thought we've heard you say he had a wife." He shook his head. "Son, Mr. Wilson hasn't had a wife. Ever." We didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the dark hallway again, the furniture draped in white, and that awful voice that belonged to someone who apparently doesn't exist. Charlie tried to act like it was no big deal. He laughed about it the next morning, called me a wimp for running so fast, but I could tell it was just talk. Every time a car drove past his trailer, he froze. By the second day, we both knew we couldn't just forget it. We went to the library that weekend. It was one of those old buildings where the air always smells like paper and dust. Charlie said we'd look through the archives, said he just wanted to know who that woman was. We sat side by side at one of those giant microfilm screens, scrolling through old newspaper pages until our eyes hurt. And then, in a section from 15 years ago, we found her. Margaret Wilson, 58, passed away unexpectedly in her home on Eagle View Lane, survived by no one. Charlie went quiet. Then he found another clipping, smaller this time. Something about her estate. The estate of Margaret Wilson being sold to George Wilson. He looked at me. That doesn't make sense. They aren't related, but they have the same last name, and he just happened to find this house for sale. I didn't have an answer. That's when he got the idea to watch the place. Every night for the next week, we'd sit in my room with the lights off and blinds cracked, watching Mr. Wilson's house from across the cul-de-sac. 9 o'clock every single night, the porch light went off. His truck backed out slowly, and right after that, the basement light flicked on. It glowed for hours, a soft yellow light through the ground level windows, and then right before midnight, it always went out. Then the headlights appeared, and he came home, always carrying a suitcase, always different. Blue one night, black the next. Once I swear it was plaid. We never saw him leave with one. By the fourth night, Charlie stopped coming over. He said he didn't like being in the dark anymore. He said sometimes when he walked home, he'd see someone standing at the edge of the trailer park, not moving, just watching. I thought he was just spooked, but then he started getting phone calls. He'd pick up and no one would speak, just static, then click. He told me once it sounded like breathing. The last time I saw him before everything went wrong, he came over right before sunset. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. "She's real," he said. His voice was shaking. "The woman, she's in there. She's watching me from the window every night." I told him maybe it was just his nerves, maybe he was seeing shadows, but deep down, I knew he wasn't lying. He said we needed to go back in to end it. We agreed we'd do it Friday night, the next time Mr. Wilson left. But Thursday came and I didn't see him at all. No texts, no calls, nothing. By Friday afternoon, I got worried. I biked to his trailer. His front door was locked, the curtains drawn. I knocked until my knuckles hurt. No answer. I even peeked through the window. His room was empty, like too empty. Clothes gone, drawers open, but his bike was still leaning against the porch. It didn't feel like he'd left. It felt like he'd been taken. That night, when 9 o'clock rolled around, I saw Mr. Wilson's porch light go out just like always. His truck pulled out of the driveway, turned down the street, and I knew right then I couldn't let this go. Not after what Charlie had said, not after what I had seen. So I grabbed my flashlight, climbed out the window, cutting through the trees until I stood in front of that same house again. It looked like it was waiting for me. The same furniture sat under those white sheets, untouched. The same still air, and every clock frozen at 3 a.m. That's when I saw the basement door again, that same padlock shining in the dark. I pulled out a screwdriver from my jacket pocket. My hands were shaking as I worked the latch loose. The lock finally snapped open, but I caught it right before it hit the floor. It made some noise, but I stood still just to make sure there was no movement above me. When I was in the clear, the basement door creaked open. Cold air drifted out. It smelled like dust, old books, and something else I couldn't name, like metal and damp stone. I took one step down, then another, and somewhere in the silence of that house, every clock started ticking again. When I stepped out onto the first creaking stair, the air felt different, heavier, colder, like the house itself knew I shouldn't be there. My flashlight caught the edges of the room below, boxes stacked high, a workbench cluttered with tools, cobwebs stretched across the pipes. It looked normal, too normal. I reached the bottom step, sweeping my light across the basement. Dust floated through the beam like tiny ghosts. There was nothing but shelves, old jars, and a few covered shapes that looked like furniture. And then in the far corner, a bookcase, big, heavy, and out of place. The kind of thing you only notice when it doesn't belong. I don't know what made me walk toward it. Curiosity, fear, maybe both. Each step echoed against the cement floor. With every one, I swore I could hear faint breathing behind the walls, slow and shallow, like the house itself was alive. When I got close, I saw marks on the floor, scratch lines. Kind you get when something heavy's been moved over it. I reached out, pressed my hand against the side, and pushed. Nothing. Then I heard it, a voice, soft and behind me.
Did you get out?
It was a woman's voice, close. I turned and had my flashlight trembling in my hand. Standing halfway in the dark was someone, or something. Her skin didn't look right, too pale in some spots, too tight in others, like it didn't belong all to one person. Her clothes hung in tatters, her head tilted slightly, like her neck wasn't used to holding weight anymore. And her face, I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't that she looked like Charlie, it was that part of her did. One eye, maybe, a patch of cheek, familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. She said again, her voice dry, like every word scraped her throat raw. Then she smiled, slowly, cracking the corners of her mouth. Something inside me broke. I dropped the flashlight and bolted. The beam swung wildly, flashing across the walls as I crashed into the stairs, shoving myself up two of them at a time. Behind me, I heard movement, slow, uneven steps dragging across the concrete. I didn't look back. I smashed through the window I'd crawled in from, hit the ground hard enough to knock the air out of me, and sprinted across the yard without stopping. Branches tore at my arms, but I didn't care. I didn't stop until I was home, pounding on my front door, screaming for my dad. They said I was hysterical, that I must have imagined it. But then the police came and checked the house. They found her, alive. They took her out on a stretcher. The news later said she was in critical condition, but stable. Nobody could explain who she was. No records, no ID, just a woman stitched together with scars and silence. My dad was the one who told me what they found in the basement. He said there was a hidden latch behind the bookcase, a small room, windowless and cold. It looked like some kind of workshop, or maybe a freezer. He couldn't even finish describing it before he had to leave the room to throw up. All he said after was, "They found meat." I asked him about Mr. Wilson, if he'd been arrested, but no one ever saw him again. Not the next day, not ever. He says truck turned up, abandoned 3 towns over. They thought they found DNA in the bed, but it was all inconclusive. It's been years since then. The house is gone now, torn down after it sat empty for too long. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I hear the faint sound of a music box playing in the back of my head, and I think about her, that woman who shouldn't have been alive. It's strange what time does to a memory. You start thinking you dreamed the worst things, that they couldn't have happened the way you remember. But then something small brings it all back. A smell, a sound, a flicker of movement behind a curtain. Every few years, I'll be driving past some small town and I'll see a house that looks like his. The same sloped roof, the same cracked driveway. And for a second, I feel 13 again, standing in front of that window, hearing that voice call out from the dark. I never told anyone everything, not even my dad. He moved us out a year later, said he wanted a fresh start. I didn't argue. But I kept the newspaper clippings, the ones about the missing kids, the ones that came out about Charlie after. Every now and then I pulled them out just to remind myself it was real. But here's what keeps me up at night. A few months ago, a friend from back home sent me an article. The article said a man was arrested after a neighbor reported strange noises under their house. They found a hidden cellar there too. It was a different town, different state, but the name of the man was Charlie Wilson.